Beyond the buzzer, inside the game, this is Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Hey, starting off a new week. It's a little chilly for what it has been. Feels more like early March than late April, but here we go. Sports IQ. Got a couple of great guests for you coming up here. It is NFL Draft Week. The new players will find their teams and get paid starting on Thursday night in Pittsburgh. Walter Cheripensky of Walter Football joining us. We'll have him actually in a couple of parts. A conversation producer Tony had with him today. We'll talk to them tomorrow as well, covering all things draft. So we got you covered there. And then a great story of a high school team that won a championship but decided to give the trophy back. That's coming up. The coach's name is Brenden King. He's joining us here, bottom of the hour. And it's a great conversation. Make sure you stick around for that. So lots of stuff coming up here. Let's get a real quick baseball story for you before we get started in football. Got to be hard these days to be a Mets fan, right? Every season starts, Mets spending money like water, fans having playoff dreams, visions of a World Series title in their heads. When the season ends, the dream is turned into a scene from a Freddy Krueger movie. I mean, the Mets decide to make changes and go out and spend a new boatload of money, and once again, Mets fans dream of the postseason. This past offseason, the Mets went out and did the following. They swung a trade for lefty Freddie Peralta to be the ace of the rotation. They then paid out the following in free agency. Bo Bichette, 3 years, $126 million. Devin Williams, 3 years, $51 million, plus a $6 million signing bonus and deferrals. Jorge Polanco, 2 years, $40 million. Luke Weaver, 2 years, $22 million. Williams and Weaver are supposed to make up for the fact that the team let closer Edwin Diaz leave in a free agency for the Dodgers. Well, so far, Williams and Weaver have combined for an ERA of 7.35 with 2 homers allowed, 2 saves, 2 blown saves. Not that the rotation's been any better. Other than rookie Nolan McLean, the Mets rotation is a shambles. Senga, 0-3, 8.83 ERA. Peralta, 1-2, ERA over 4. Peterson, 0-3, an ERA of 6.41, on the verge of losing his starting spot. How about the offense? Juan Soto on the DL. He's not helping. The Mets signed Jorge Polanco to replace Pete Alonso. Polanco so far hitting a blistering 179 with 1 homer, 2 RBI. The infield looks like the Mets are playing Abbott and Costello baseball, if you know what I mean. Bad replacement on first. I cannot hit on second. There's a hole in my bat at third. That's the infield. Third base, Bichette's hitting 227 with 1 homer. Simeon at second's hitting 216 with 1 homer. At short, Lindor, 214 with 1 homer. On Sunday, the Mets had a 1-0 lead against the Cubs at Wrigley, going to the bottom of the 9th, hoping to end a 10-game slide. But Devin Williams, to close things out, give up a double to Michael Conforto, scoring Mike Kingery, and we're off to extra innings, knotted at 1. And then later, a sac fly, scoring Pete Crow Armstrong, reaching third on a wild pitch. Cubs got a 2-1 win. So the Mets now have lost 11 straight, longest losing streak for New York since they also dropped 11 in a row back in 2004. They've been outscored, I hope you're sitting down for this, 62-19 during the slide, averaging just 2.9 runs over 17 games in April. To be a Mets fan now that spring is here. I don't want to dash your World Series hopes because it is early, but boy, this is not what you're dreaming of. I know. Okay, producer Tony is with our first guest.
Well, thanks, Larry. And yeah, this is one of my favorite weeks. Draft week, always exciting. You never know what's going to happen. You know, it used to just be a Saturday and a Sunday, and it took forever. Now they've stretched it out over 3 days. So you got Thursday, Friday, Saturday, only round 1 happening on Thursday. And we're lucky enough to have a good friend of ours, Walter Cheripensky, joining us. Walter is the founder of WalterFootball.com. If you haven't checked out this site, you're not a football fan. You're not a draft fan. They've got mock drafts as far as the eye can see, in-depth analysis. They know what's going on. Walter, thanks for taking some time and joining us.
Well, thanks for having me on. Yeah, it's hard to believe the draft is coming up in a few days. It's crazy. Felt like we just had the 2025 draft, and here we go. And before we know, it's gonna be the 2027 draft. So we have mock drafts for that as well. So yeah, it's a very exciting time.
It really is. It is always interesting. But you know, Walter, as I'm watching and reading and studying some of these NFL pages, it's a quieter pre-draft experience than we've had the last few years. There just doesn't seem to be as much buzz around some of these top picks and people trying to get up in there to get things. It seems to be gone almost too quiet right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. You said it perfectly. There's no buzz for this draft, and I think it's because it's one of the weaker drafts. Now, I think it's deep. So, like, once you get to day two, even the early parts of day three, like your teams are going to be able to get some good starters potentially down the road. But as far as like blue chip players, I think there's six guys at the top. It's Mendoza, Bailey, Reese, Downs, Styles, and Love. And then after that, it kind of falls off a cliff. And if you don't have one of those top six picks, or if you're not a team like Dallas that could trade up with those extra resources, it's kind of tough to be excited about this draft. There's one surefire quarterback. Some people think Simpson is worth a first round pick. I really don't think so. And so, yeah, it's a very quiet draft. I think maybe because there are no running backs either, except for Love, who are worthy of first round picks either. So, like the star fantasy players, like you're gonna have some receivers, obviously, but outside of that, and Sadiq, outside of that, there's really not much to go on here. And yeah, it's quiet. I think next year's draft looks very promising. So we might see the opposite next year.
So, do you think we might see some teams trading down or out of rounds to try to stockpile picks for next year's draft, knowing it might be deeper? Kind of going, okay, why should I waste picks if I can trade down and stockpile things for next year? I can still might find a couple of pieces, but I really have a little bit of a cachet in my bank for next season's draft.
Yeah, it's going to depend on which teams think they can win now. So if you think you can win now, you want those picks this year because you're going all in for this year. The teams that are not in contention, I feel like they would stockpile for next year. It's almost going to look at the NBA where all these teams are tanking basically because next year's talent is just so rich that But then again, you also have to wonder who's going to want to trade off for these players. Now I know we know that Dallas wants to move up either for Styles or one of the edge rushers. Outside of that, it's like who wants to move up if you're not getting into the top six and getting one of those top six players? You're always going to have teams that want to move down, and when they don't and they reach for a player, there's always going to be criticisms like, "Hey, why didn't you trade down?" It's like, well, no one wanted to move up, so
Right.
I don't know if we're going to see that many trades in the first round outside of maybe Arizona moving down or Cleveland moving down, and you'll get a couple. Like I think if Arizona really wants Simpson, then they could move up into the end of the first round from 34 to like 29, 30, something like that. Outside of that, we may not see many fireworks on draft day, but maybe on day two and day three, we might start to see that. Because, like I said, it's a deeper class. And I think the difference between pick 40 and pick 60, 70 is pretty negligible.
Okay, that makes sense. We've seen through the years, Walter, some guys, there's always seems to be a couple of players, maybe one in draft with the slide factor. Remember that's how Aaron Rodgers' career got started in Green Bay. He kept sliding,
Yep.
sliding until the Packers took him, even though they had Brett Favre. We've seen other players go that slide route before getting picked. I'm getting the feeling and a sense that Ruben Bain might be that player that kind of slides down based on what you're reading and what you're hearing out there. Or it could very well be just a smokescreen about somebody who wants to get him in the top 5 or 6 that is causing that to happen. What's your feelings on that?
On Ruben Bain, I mean, teams have known this already. It's not something that just happened yesterday or last week. It happened a while ago. Teams know about it. So if they already planned on drafting him at 9 or 10, the Chiefs and Bengals could definitely use him. Then I still think they would take him. But if they're legitimately concerned about his character, then he could certainly slide. I mean, there's two reasons why players fall: it's character and injury. And with Bain as character, we saw a report earlier that Caleb Downs had a degenerative knee, and so I mocked him at 18 in one of my mocks. But then Charlie Campbell, our senior NFL draft analyst, he speaks to like several teams, and all of them said there was no concern about him. And the person who wrote that original report deleted his tweet, so I guess there's no issue with that. Someone who might drop though, Jamad McCoy, the cornerback from Tennessee, is coming off the torn ACL. There were reports in February during the combine that he was recovering well, but recently there have been some negative reports as well. Now, this could be like what you said about Bain, that could be floated to have him drop. But You never know. I mean, some guys just fall into the second round. It happens because of knee injuries. Like the cornerback Will Johnson last year, he fell to the second round, even though he's a top 10 talent because of injury concerns. So he could be the guy who falls. If I were to say if there's one guy who's going to fall, I think it's going to be McCoy.
And when you look at that, when you look at those falling players, especially on the character issue, you can go back and there's a specific example of Warren Sapp coming out of Miami, same school as Bain. Somebody had character issues on him. Characters. Well, that turned out to be a boon for Tampa because they got a steal when they got Warren Sapp where they did in that draft.
Absolutely. I mean, look, all it takes is for one team to fall in love with the player and be okay with their character concerns. But then again, for every Warren Sapp, there's a Henry Ruggs. So he's been out of the NFL for a while now because of the tragic incident that occurred with him. You really have to vet these players, and with Sapp, ended up being great. They won a Super Bowl with him, and with Ruggs, that was a wasted first round pick. It got the GM fired. So it's pretty dicey, and you have to be okay with it. One character guy who, in addition to Bain, who stands out to me is Mekhi Lemon, the receiver from USC, because there were reports saying that he had some very poor combine interviews. I asked Charlie about it, and the most he said was he struck teams as very weird. Not sure what that means exactly, but if a bunch of teams that need receivers don't like him or are scared of him, he could fall as well. But again, it only takes one team to fall in love with him.
I want to put you a little bit on the spot here. I'm going to put you a new hat on your head. You're the Raiders GM. Is Fernando Mendoza a franchise quarterback you want to build around, or would it be better to try to trade down and maybe wait for next year's quarterback class to see what's in there? I mean, he had a great season, Heisman Trophy winner, takes Indiana, first ever national title, does all those things. Does his game translate to the pros good enough to make him the number one overall pick?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's a franchise quarterback. I like him a lot. I'd be surprised if he busted. Now, maybe he's not going to be an all-pro or whatever, but I think he could be a good franchise quarterback. I would definitely take him. And as far as trading down and hoping for next year, there are a couple issues. One, you may not get the first pick. You may not get Arch Manning. The Jets in 2020, they were tanking for Trevor Lawrence, and then they beat the Rams as 15-point underdogs, and then they beat the Browns the next week, and suddenly they had to draft Zach Wilson instead of Trevor Lawrence, and that turned out to be a disaster. The second thing is that while the 2027 class looks great right now, all it takes is for some guys to bust. Maybe they go back to school. Maybe they get injured. That happens all the time. Heading into this year, people thought Garrett Nussmeier was going to be a first round pick. Now he might be lucky to go in the second round. So things change all the time, and there's no guarantees. And the people running the Raiders, if they have a bad year, then they might be in jeopardy of being fired. So I feel like they have to get Mendoza. But from everything I'm hearing, they're very impressed with him. He's already learning the playbook, and he's very high character, smart guy, lots of talent. Charlie Campbell, one of his sources, described him as Joe Flacco with mobility. Flacco was a very good quarterback for a long time, and indeed he didn't even have mobility. So it seems like he is the way to go. I would draft him.
So looking at this draft, let's take a look at the Cowboys because they present an interesting. They've got extra draft capital that they can play with. They have a fantastic offense. The last few years, they've been able to put up points basically whenever they want to. The last couple of years, they've also not been able to stop anybody who had a pulse on offense, just the way it's been. Do they want to make some moves to get that defense better, or do you think they're just happy to spend their draft capital where it is and take the best available players?
So we did a mock draft on our show a couple nights ago. As we had Ben Wassley on from FFDFantasyFootball.com, and we just had a stipulation, no trades, and we got to 12, and I had the even pick, so I was taking Dallas, and the way we had it falling, like Jermod McCoy is our best option. Maybe we reach for Kedrick Falk. Like if they stay at 12, they may not get a good player for this year. They have extra capital, and I think that with how they're built right now, and they added some talent. They added Quentin Williams trade deadline last year. They got Rashawn Gary, so they're starting to build some pieces. I think they really need a franchise defensive type player. And so it's not a surprise that you're hearing that they want to trade up. In my mock draft right now, I have them moving from 12 to 3 to Arizona to get Arvo Reese, or if it's David Bailey, that makes sense as well. I've also heard that they want to potentially move to 6 for Sonny Styles and maybe give him the Leighton Vander Esch type of player that they once had, and fortunately his career was cut short with injuries. But he is Sonny Styles is that type of player. So either linebacker, edge rush, or cornerback, and you're not moving up for a cornerback in this class. So I think they should move up, because if they wait at 12, they may not get a good starter for this year, and they really need one.
Yeah, and I think most folks have, and tell us what you're thinking there at Walter Football, but I think most people, when you're evaluating talent for a draft, you put a grade on them. This guy's a first round talent. This guy's second round talent, third. Right now, from everything that I've read, is there might only be a handful of guys, maybe 10, that have gotten first round grades. Is that what you've seen as you've evaluated this draft?
Yeah, it's pretty low. Usually we hear 21, 19, 20 first round grades on players. This is like not even the teens. It's like 12. It's pretty bleak. And that's why there's no buzz here. It's like once the top guys go, it's like, who cares? You're drafting second round players in other classes. So yeah, that's another reason why Dallas should move up. They you said it. Their offense is amazing. Like, they're built to win right now, but their defense just allows 40 points. They have to score 41 to win. It's ridiculous. So they need a high impact player, because they had one in Parsons, and we've seen what happened with their defense. In 2024, when they had Parsons healthy, they were a top 10 defense. When 2025, they were bottom 5 defense, because they couldn't get to the quarterback. They couldn't stop the pass at all, and they had issues against the run, at least until they got Quinn Williams. So yeah, this is a team that is just in dire need of a star player defensively.
Is there one team in there in the first round that you think kind of controls that first round about where things might fall? There's always one who makes a surprise move or a speculative move and kind of throws everybody's game off kilter, right? Who do you think might be the kilter killer, let's call them, out there for this year?
Yeah, the team that ruins the mock drafts. It's funny, you work on these mock drafts for 52 weeks, and then you have the Jaguars move up to 2 last year and ruin everything. It's really frustrating. That Dallas obviously could move up for sure. I think a team like I would say the Eagles, for example, they were at 23. They're a team that always likes to make a move. I could see them jumping up several spots and going to like 10 or 11. Make sure they get the right tackle they want, or a receiver, because AJ Brown is supposedly going to be on the move. I think the Steelers are another team. They really need offensive line help. And Vega Awane is a guy who's being talked about. I can't remember who said it, but it said Awane's floor is 14 to the Ravens. And like, they lost Isaac Somalo. They really need a player of that caliber. So they can move up. A team like Minnesota really needs defensive line help. They, especially on the edge. Jonathan Grenard might be on the move. I can see them going from 18 onward. And I think the Chargers have positioned themselves well. Getting Mike McDaniel, Justin Herbert another year. In this new offense, he's going to be good. And then they're getting their tackles back. Just feels like they need just 1 or 2 more high impact players. I can see them moving up too.
Walter Cheripensky, walterfootball.com. Go check it out. It's draft week, folks. They've got the best coverage. They've got all kinds of insight. If you're a draftnik like I am, you're reading that all the time. You're checking it out. It's a great place to be. Walter, let me ask a question. Can we get you to come back tomorrow and talk a little further about the draft with us?
Absolutely. I will be here tomorrow.
We're going to have Walter back again tomorrow. We're going to keep diving into this draft before Thursday, when things really start hitting the fan, shall we say. We're going to take a quick break on the Sports IQ, but we'll be right back with more.
Those old golf clubs sitting in your garage right now, there's a good chance they're worth real money. That driver you replaced, those irons you upgraded, even that putter collecting dust. Golf Roots lets you trade them in for cash or credit toward your next set. And right now, Sports IQ listeners get exclusive offers. Take $20 off any order over $100 with code SIQSALE, or get a 15% bonus on your trade-in value with code SIQ TRADE-IN. That means the clubs in your garage could be worth even more. Golf Roots is on a mission to make golf more accessible, offering high-quality, pre-owned name brand clubs for every skill level. And if you're just starting out, the Just the Roots starter set is one of the most affordable ways to begin, with full trade-in credit when you're ready to upgrade. So don't let your old gear sit there losing value. Go to golfroots.com and see how you can start or upgrade your golf journey today. Use code SIQ SALE for $20 off or SIQ trade-in for 15% extra when you trade in your old clubs. That's golfroots.com. Golf Roots. Upgrade smarter.
Do you want to save money on your next flight? Then pick up the phone and call. That's right, call. Because the best prices on airline tickets are not online. They're with SmartFares. See, SmartFares has special deals with the airlines. When they have unsold seats, they use SmartFares to fill them. So you get airline tickets at ridiculously low prices. They have access to great prices and discounts with over 500 different airlines, plus 300,000 hotels and rental car companies. Their prices are too low to publish online. The only way to learn more is make a free call. With the extra money you'll save, you can book another trip or treat yourself to dinner or shopping. So stop searching all of those travel sites to find the lowest price on your next trip. Let one of our SmartFares expert travel agents find the best prices for you. Call SmartFares today and get the best price on your next trip.
You're listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Well, staying with NFL, a big trade over the weekend. The Giants sending three-time Pro Bowl defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence to Cincinnati in exchange for the number 10 overall pick. By the way, the Bengals already have signed into a one-year extension worth $28 million. Lawrence, coming off a subpar year, only 31 tackles, just a half sack, and playing in all 17 games in 2025. But he now leaves. The Giants were reluctant to give him a big, massive raise with those kinds of numbers, and now he does get that money in Cincinnati. So the Giants now, they hold two of the top 10 picks in the draft on Thursday night, the first-round picks, I should say, number 5 and now number 10, getting that from the Bengals. Here's an interesting stat. Now, Cincinnati, 31st in total defense in 2025. CBS Sports did some crazy research here. In the last 15 years, so 2011 through 2025, the Bengals drafted 62 defensive players. None made the Pro Bowl. So they need some help over there in Cincinnati. NBA playoffs, meanwhile, first games are all done in all series, all the way through. Boy, OKC looked dominant in their win with a big win, 119-84 over Phoenix. Boston also just looked really, really good. The number 2 seed, by the way, in the East, 123-91 over Phoenix. Only one road team winning the opener of these best-of-7 series. It was Orlando, the 8th seed, at 1 seed Detroit, getting the win, 112-101. Magic looked really good in that one. Just aggressive. Boy, Jalen Suggs was everywhere defensively. And so now the Pistons are trying to get one back in Game 2. Tonight's action, all Game 2s. Toronto is at Cleveland, Atlanta at the Knicks, and Minnesota visits Denver. Again, all three of those home teams, Cavs, Knicks, and Nuggets, all have the 1-0 series lead. NHL, also the Stanley Cup playoffs underway. Tonight it is Philadelphia at Pittsburgh. Ottawa is at Carolina, and Minnesota at Dallas. Again, all three of those series, the home team has the 1-game lead as well. Game 1, meanwhile, in the Western Conference playoffs, it is Anaheim visiting the Edmonton Oilers. Some basketball news for you. Women's basketball, former Iowa State star Audie Crooks entering the transfer portal, and she has picked her new team, staying in the Big 12 and going to Oklahoma State. The 6'3" junior averaging 26 points and 8 rebounds a game. She became an All-American second-team performer. Also shooting 65% from the field. Crooks is just a beast for the Cyclones this past year, and now she will play for the Cowboys there in the Big 12. For the men, meanwhile, big news for UConn is Braylon Mullins deciding he will return for his sophomore year. The star freshman looked at going to the NBA. Possible first-round pick, probably would not have been in the top 20, so he'll come back and probably make more NIL money with the Huskies than he would as a low first-round pick. Averaged 12 points per game, and of course, Mullins hit that crazy shot, 3-point shot just before the buzzer to beat Duke to reach the Final Four for the Huskies. Of course, then they lost to Michigan in the title game. So big things going on with UConn. Mullins will be a star, as well as former Duke reserve, I should say, Nick Kamenian, I believe is how you say his last name, one of the highly sought-after players in the portal. He will be heading to UConn as well. He's made his decision after leaving the Blue Devils. One other story, too, in Louisville, Carter Knox becoming the third big name out of the portal to go to the Cardinals, spending 2 years at Arkansas. Former five-star player, McDonald's All-American out of high school, had meniscus surgery back in February, but now he becomes the third name to join after a Kansas big man, Flory Badunga, and Oregon combo guard, Jordan Shellstad. So a new-look lineup for Pat Kelsey in Louisville. And again, that portal will close tonight. So let's see what other names enter the portal. And again, players can still talk to teams after tonight, but they have until midnight tonight to actually enter their name in the portal. We'll be watching that as well. Okay, talking a little more stories coming up here. Great story with Brenden King, the coach, and his team who gave back a championship trophy. We'll explain all that coming up next.
Are you tired of your website making your business look bad? Is your current web developer dropping the ball? Let's face it, if your website isn't making you money, it's broken. Let Neon Rain create a website that turns your visitors into customers. Neon Rain has worked with hundreds of businesses across North America, building custom websites and applications with modern designs that are easy to update and work well on mobile devices. They can do it for you too. What sets Neon Rain apart? They actually deliver on their promises. Call today for a free consultation. 303-957-3092. That's Neon Rain at 303-957-3092. Or visit them at neonrain.com.
You're locked in to Sports IQ with Larry Smith.
Welcome back here to the show. Producer Tony is always scouring the internet, looking for just the very best stories. And we ran across one that just was, we said, we got to reach out and talk to this guy. Brenden King is a high school coach, and I really want him to be able to tell his story. Brenden, first off, welcome to Sports IQ.
Yes, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys, if we go to look up the record books, your team is a state championship team, but you don't have the trophy in your trophy case. Is that correct?
Yes, very similar. District championship is kind of where the title lied, but
Okay.
It was a playoff game indeed. Yes, sir.
Okay. So a district championship. So tell us what happened.
Yes. So it was February 15th of 2025. So just a little over a year ago, we were hosting the district championship playoff game here at our gym. A little bit of the underdog coming into it. We knew we were going to have to play really well to give ourselves a chance to win and to be in it. The game was very back and forth, kind of your normal playoff game, great atmosphere. We knew we were playing a talented team, a very good coach on the other side. And with about 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter, there was a scoring error in which the game actually stopped for close to 10 to 15 minutes. So the exact error that came about was the score that was on the scoreboard did not match the score that was in the scorebook at the table. So the referees came together, they paused the game, and they said, we have to get this right. With just 2 minutes left, it was a single-digit game. And like I said, for about 10 minutes, the game had stopped because they knew they had to get the correct score. One of the Oklahoma high school rules for basketball here is the official score is what is in the book at the scores table. So that is the score that we had to go by with just 2 minutes left in the game. So fast forwarding to the last 10 seconds, we find ourselves down. It's our ball, and we're down by 2 points, dribbling the ball up the floor, and we hit this near half-court buzzer beater shot that almost played out like it would in a movie. So we hit this 3-point shot, the time runs off the clock, and we win the game by 1 point, and we think we are crowned champions of the night. It's a big celebration on the floor. Really just a great moment for us as a school to be able to celebrate. We're a very young program. That was just our 4th year of girls basketball at our school. So really still trying to make a name for ourselves. And it had just been such a long year. The girls had been through a lot on and off the court. And for our success to be able to shine and really, like I said, upset somebody considering we were the underdog going into that game.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So, so that's what happened that night. And you take the trophy, you feel like, again, euphoria, the great shot, everything else, and
Right.
then you go home, and what happens?
Yeah, so I think my immediate gut reaction is we loved celebrating on the court because, again, we knew we were not supposed to win this game analytically. But as soon as we walked off the court and I went into the locker room to talk to the girls, tell them just how proud I was of them and the incredible performance I just had this sense of urge in my stomach. And I was just contemplating that I knew the delay that had happened in the game. I wanted to make sure that we had actually won the game and that we were the deserving champs of the night. So there was just this feeling in my stomach that didn't sit right. And I said, I want to know for sure that we won this game. So later that night, I went back to my house and as coaches normally do, just watching through film. But this time was different because I wanted to know the score was correct. So I got out a notepad with a pen and I began to watch the game through, and I counted every made basket for both teams, 2-pointers to 3-pointers to free throws made all the way through. And sure enough,
You're by yourself at this point. This is long after the game. Everyone's the cheering's died down, the celebration, and you're just me, myself, and I doing this.
yes. Yeah,
Okay.
returning home, it was about midnight. I would say my wife had already gone to bed, and I was just there alone calculating this score, really hoping that we did deservedly win the game. So after calculating the game through one time, sure enough, during that 10-minute delay that we had in the fourth quarter, we had actually been incorrectly rewarded a basket in the fourth quarter of that game, which coming down to it, now you win the game by one and you take away the 2-point basket, we really lose the game by one. So calculated it through one time, and I said, just to be 100% certain, I got to watch this through again. I said, this is it had playoff implications on who moves on to play who next. And again, I just wanted the right winner to be crowned at the end of the day. So again, watching the game tape through a second time, recalculating every single made basket, I knew the second time through when I got the exact same score and we had actually lost by one instead of winning by one, that now it was that was what it was. So,
wow. Okay. So you go to sleep really probably not a very good night's sleep because you're worried about this.
right.
At what point did you say, we got to do something to fix this?
Yeah, so that game happened on a Saturday evening, which again led late into Saturday night. I woke up the next morning on Sunday and had a phone call with our athletic administration at our school and explained what had happened. And we were going to bring this to the OSSAA, who is the governing body for Oklahoma high school athletic sports in the state. And we had seen where there are rules in their particular rule book that says when a game is done. The score cannot be changed. Both teams, both schools are accepting that there are mistakes made by referees, there are mistakes made by coaches. In this case, the mistake was made by the scoreboard and the scorebook table there at our home gym. So we had talked as a staff, and again, we just thought that this was the best thing to do. And I said, before we move forward, I want to meet with my team, and I want them to know kind of what the situation is at hand, because they're still on this high of we won this district championship game, first one in school history. So I think their ears immediately perked up when they received a text message from their coach on a Sunday morning saying, can we meet at school? So immediately, I think when we walked into the room, I had the majority of the team there. They kind of saw the body language I had on my face that Coach King is not as happy and as excited as we were the night before celebrating the win. So essentially what I did, I sat down in a circle with my team, similarly that I've explained to you guys, let them know that there was a scoring error and that we did actually lose the game by one instead of winning the game by one. And it didn't diminish how proud I was of them and how much we had accomplished in such a short year, and just all the success that we had. And I really left it open-ended, and I just wanted to hear from the team on what they thought would be the best action, the best decision going forward, knowing in my mind I had already kind of thought, we're going to report this error, leave it in the hands of the OSSAA and go from there. And I think one of the most heartwarming, just comforting, emotional things for me as a coach is the 100% backing I had of my players at that meeting of, again, they had full support of me and our decision that we were not to keep the trophy, that we were not the rightful winners of that game. when the score was correct. And again, I had a lot of seniors on that team. They knew what it meant to be able to celebrate and have that win. But they 100% fully agreed that we should give the trophy to our opponent, who was Apache, and crown them the rightful winners of the game.
Wow. So then did you drive to that school to give that to them, or how did you do that? What happened?
Yeah, so just shortly after that meeting with the team, again, contacting the OSSAA, the governing body here in Oklahoma, they had rescinded our win. We just kind of had to put it in writing through email. They wanted a statement from our school kind of taking fault, but again, that it was our decision that we wanted to hand over the trophy. And again, that's just fully what we believed was the right thing to do. I think a lot of conversations I had with coaches was just not everybody would have made that decision.
Yeah.
And again, it's just, I think the culture we live in today. But yes, after that meeting had happened and after the OSSAA had rescinded our win, my wife and I, we drove down on Sunday, just about an hour and a half of Oklahoma City, where our high school is located, to Apache, Oklahoma. And we presented the trophy to their team at their practice. Very heartwarming, just emotional scene. Like I said, they have seniors on their team. And when I presented the trophy and handed it over to them, I just wanted to let them know that there was never any ill will or any bad intent here. I said we were both competing for the same trophy. I hated that that moment was taken away from their team, that they were not able to celebrate with their family and their school that night and raise the trophy. But again, just an emotional moment for their seniors, who were now crowned the real district champs of the night. And we're just continuing to move on in the playoffs. So,
Yeah. Wow. That's, by the way, what did they go on to do in the tournament?
yeah, so the way it works here is it's double elimination. So now with us taking the loss, we both advance to the next round. It's kind of who your matchups were. We played a pretty difficult team in our next round, so we lost. But Apache actually had some more success, advancing 2 to 3 more rounds into the area playoffs. So again, just a great story and a great way to see that happen. And again, just the emotion from both sides was a lot to handle in there in a short period of time. So
Yeah. Wow. I mean, you're right. A lot of coaches, I mean, I don't want to say how many, I don't want to, but it would be very easy for you to have seen that and said, you know what? Nobody knows. Nobody has to know.
right.
What did it mean to you? One, for your own conscience, but that your players were behind you 100%. I mean, that's just, I mean, it's just an amazing story.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I think it's just the culture we live in today. Winning is kind of elevated above everything else. And don't get me wrong, I'm one of the most competitive coaches. I don't like to lose. I had some of the most competitive players I've ever coached on that team last year. So I know that was not easy for them either. I think, again, just elevating sportsmanship and integrity above all. The love that I have for the game of basketball, but just for sports in general. Again, I have too much love and integrity for the game that I would ever do something with ill intent like that at all. But again,
Yeah.
I think the lesson that was learned on both sides of this, and really that began to catch national media attention, is just it was an uncommon move that was made in sports today. Like I said, even coaches that I had asked in my profession around the areas, it would have been really easy to say no and take that under the belt, and no one would have ever known that that scoring area had actually happened. But again, just the way that I live my life, and the lesson that I wanted to teach my players is, you're doing things the right way. You're representing yourself, your school, having integrity in all that we do. But again, it just speaks on sportsmanship and how far that can go. So,
What was the reaction from other teachers, parents, other coaches you mentioned? Once
right.
word got out that you guys did this, what was the reaction?
Yeah, we had a lot of support, especially in our local community. I think a few questions I've been asked just through this entire media kind of attention that it had grabbed was anybody upset or mad? And that was one thing. I had actually received just overwhelming support from parents and community members, teachers, administration, of the lesson that these girls were taught during this situation will mean more than any trophy that they could have ever won, or any trophy that would have ever been presented to them. So those lessons for sure, I think, will go on forever and will last a lifetime. A lot of schools in the area, again, just a lot of support that we had received. Really, again, just trying to make a name for ourselves as a younger school here in the Oklahoma City metro. And then, Yeah, it's crazy to just replay it over and over. It feels like something that would happen in a movie. So it was cool to be a part of.
So that was a year ago. It's been a year
Mhm.
since then. You had a lot of seniors. How did your team do this year? And has that ever come up again in terms of just a point of just integrity of people
Right.
referring to that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, when the season had ended, it really had gone silent for almost a full year. We had a couple just local broadcasts pick up on it, but it really didn't grab media attention until August of here this past year at the beginning of the new season, the beginning of the new school year. Like I'd mentioned, I think we only had 3 or 4 players from last year's team that actually came back this year with just how many graduating seniors we had and a couple transfers move away. So I had a ton of freshmen this year that were actually not a part of that game last year that they got to grab and kind of feel all the media attention that began to pick up towards the beginning of basketball season. So there around September, October is when kind of CBS News started to pick up on it. The On the Road segment with Steve Hartman was beginning to happen. And then it's kind of just a domino effect from there. New York Times, The Guardian. And then again, just a lot of local news media began to pick up, just photographers at practice and interviews coming. The kids really started to enjoy the moment, but with us having a completely brand new team this year, we're a little bit of a rebuild mode, just starting 4 freshmen throughout this entire school year. It was a complete turnover from where we were the year prior. But I think, if anything, that team of last year just left a legacy for these freshmen and these young kids of the standard that's going to be set with our program, that we do everything with humility, good sportsmanship, and integrity above all, staying together through the wins and the losses, and that we're representing something more than just ourselves and our school, our program, and just being a light. So
That's awesome. I think that when you have youth sports, youth activities, be it any kind of extra co-curricular activities, that's the bigger points, right? I mean, most young people who take part in these are not going to go on and do this as a profession. And so, to your point, that's where you learn these life lessons that will benefit you 20, 30, 40 years down the line. So, I mean, God bless that you took the time to do this, step up, and the impact you have made. I do want to make sure we give you guys love. The school's name is Academy of Classical Christian Studies. Like you
yes,
said,
sir.
in the city. And this is Brenden King. Brenden, great to talk with you. And thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for just being a man of integrity. And man, good luck to you in the future.
Thank you so much, Larry. I appreciate it.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks so much. We're back with more after this.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? There's a tremendous price war among the major term life companies. Rates have dropped dramatically in the past 2 years. For example, a man age 45 non-tobacco user, $1 million of coverage is only $75 per month, level for the next 10 years. Or a man age 50 non-tobacco user can buy $500,000 of coverage for a monthly premium of only $110, guaranteed not to change for the next 20 years. That's right, level rates for 20 years. And if you're a smoker, we have great rates for you as well. At the Term Lifeline, we specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. So if you're looking for new or replacement term life insurance, call right now for a free quote.
Rates and availability may vary by state. Sample rate quotes are based on preferred non-tobacco underwriting exam required to qualify.
Call 855-826-7932. 855-826-7932. That's 855-826-7932.
Welcome back here. I've talked quite a bit about the parity in college basketball, right? 20 different teams in the Final Four this decade. And now all the different champions. Michigan joins again another different champion. And so it is a beautiful time when you don't have just the Dukes, North Carolinas, Kansas, Kentucky's, for a while, Indiana, back in the day, UCLA. We've discussed that. But I'm here to tell you that it is a golden era in sports across the board, not just in college basketball. When you take a look at the top 4 sports, the least inclusive when it comes to the championship game or the championship series is actually the NFL. In the last 10 Super Bowls, only 9 different teams have reached that level. Niners, Bengals, and Falcons. Remember the 28-3 score? Yeah. You want to make a Falcon fan mad, just bring that up and watch them just turn red and become the Hulk all of a sudden. Still hurts. 6 different champions in this past decade. 9 different teams total. Of course, the Seahawks just won. Eagles, Kansas City's won 3 times. The Rams have won. Tampa Bay getting the win. One of 3 rings won in the past decade by the now retired Tom Brady, who won a couple as well with New England. Philly, by the way, winning 2 Super Bowl rings in that decade as well. In the NBA, there have been 12 different teams reach the finals. Teams like Indiana, Dallas, the Heat, even the Phoenix Suns have reached the finals and not coming through. Several teams as well winning their first ever championship. Cleveland did it with LeBron James back in the teens, pre-COVID. Toronto getting the win. The first team since 1955 to win the NBA championship without a top 10 draft pick on its roster. Denver, a couple of years ago, getting the win in 2023. The Nuggets under Mike Malone, who has then since been fired and now is the North Carolina Tar Heels coach on the college ranks. But the NBA special because right now we're on a run of 7 different teams winning the last 7 NBA championships. I mean, that is true parity. Where it used to be, same thing. It was, the Lakers and Celtics, and it was always the Bulls, and it was the Spurs and the Warriors. So now it's all over. OKC, of course, getting its first win since the franchise moved to Oklahoma City last summer. That we know. They did win a title back in 1979 in Seattle, but the first one since they became the Thunder. Boston getting a win. We mentioned Denver before. Golden State has won 3 titles in the past decade. Milwaukee, behind Giannis, getting the first NBA championship since 1971. They came through. Lakers are in there. Toronto, I mentioned a couple, Golden State, and again, Cleveland as well. But the 2 leagues that have been the most open in terms of the most teams reaching the championship round have been the NHL and Major League Baseball. Both have had 13 different teams reach the championship round in the past decade. Teams that have lost Stanley Cup Finals, Edmonton, Montreal, the Stars, the Bruins, Nashville Predators, also San Jose. Among the winners there, of course, Florida right now, the 2-time defending champion. Vegas Knights have gotten a win. The Avalanche are in. They're the number 1 seed right now in the West this year. Tampa Bay's won a couple. We saw the Blues, Caps, even the Penguins win a couple at the beginning of this run. And in Major League Baseball, it's been, of course, the Dodgers have come through. I mean, 5 World Series appearances in the past decade, 3 World Series championships. Amazingly, when you look at Major League Baseball, the one team missing for the championship round almost completely, the New York Yankees. 1 World Series appearance for the Yankees in the past decade. The Dodgers, again, 2-time defending champions. Texas winning 3 years ago. Houston getting a win. Atlanta Braves under the now retired manager Brian Snitker. The Washington Nationals coming through. Boston Red Sox. Astros, again, overall winning a couple. And then, of course, the Chicago Cubs back in 2016 breaking through and ending that drought that went all the way back to 1907, getting that first championship in 2016 for the Cubs. But again, 13 teams overall for Major League Baseball. So when you talk about right now what we're experiencing in sports, it is not just college basketball, and we've seen even in college football, a team like the Indiana Hoosiers, the losingest program among power conference teams ever in college football, coming through, and they right now go into, and we'll talk later on this week with Shannon Griffith of Hoosiers.com about their big week as they have the spring football game coming up on Thursday night. It's Indiana Hoosiers coming through and winning the national championship. The Big Ten winning 3 straight titles after the SEC has dominated college football over the past decade, past couple of decades. Michigan winning 2 years ago, make that now 3 years ago. 2 years ago, it was Ohio State getting the win, and then last year it was Indiana. So it is truly an era, a great era in sports, whereas truly it is anyone's game every week. We just saw in sports, Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson both are north of 50, and neither even at the Masters in 1994, and yet the first golf major of the year was lacking for no drama at all just last weekend as we move forward with this. So It's a fun time right now to be a part of sports. You can say whatever. It's salary cap. It is in college NIL, transfer portal, whatever reason you want to pick. It's here, and it's fun to watch the true competition that truly it is anyone's game every time we begin a sporting match. Okay, our moment of awe is up next.
I get a lot of calls from people across the country who are suffering from the affliction of IRS tax debt, and that's because I have a remedy. Hi, I'm the tax doctor, and if you're having any of these tax issues, call me right now. My team specializes in helping people over the age of 50 solve their tax problems, and the bigger your tax problem is, the more money you can save. If you owe the IRS money, or you're about to owe the IRS money, or even if you need to file years of unfiled returns, call us right now. Our friendly, highly trained representatives are waiting right now to take your call. Over the years, we've helped thousands of people just like you stop the tax liens, wage garnishments, and harassing phone calls. You don't need to send the IRS a big fat check. We can negotiate a lower amount. That's what we guarantee for you. So call us right now. Call 833-789-3068.
Time now for a moment of awe. We go to the sport of track and field. And, you know, it's one thing we've talked about freshmen, all the butterflies, anxiety of going on to a college campus. And so when we see freshmen really exceed, we're always super impressed. And that goes to BYU freshman Jane Hedegren. On Friday, she set the women's outdoor 5,000-meter record with a time of 14:50.50, breaks the old mark of 14 minutes, 52 seconds, 52.18 seconds by a second and a half. So not only does she now own the 5,000-meter outdoor record, she also just happens to own the 5,000 and the 10,000 indoor meter records as well. She's a freshman. She did all of this in the past 5 months. Freshman Jane Hedegren, where do you go up from here? Except set more records. Already, you truly have earned our moment of awe. And that's our show today. We appreciate our guests stopping by today. Walter Cheripensky of Walter Football, Brenden King and his amazing story of what his team did a year ago, but still resonates with us today. So cool. Make it a great Monday. We'll talk to you tomorrow here on the Sports IQ.
Thanks for listening to Sports IQ with Larry Smith, Monday through Friday. Continue the conversation at Sports IQ LS. We'll see you next time.